Hi, everybody. It's, I don't know, sometime in April, and we're having a Jupiter Venus Neptune conjunction perfecting tomorrow. And I don't know, I guess I've been kind of putting off making this video for a while, and I've actually been having some doubts about whether I want to keep making transit videos in general, but I don't know if I'll get into that right now. Um, the Let's just get into it. Um, Jupiter. I was looking at. I was doing some management of my computer files and things on old hard drives, and I found out that I had a PDF download of the ancient astrologer Vedius Valen's complete works. And so, to sort of jog my memory or to do some, self-directed studying, I started I started making notes and stuff like that, and I was looking at Jupiter, and here's some of the notes that I made of things that what Jupiter stands for: childbearing, desire, love, political ties, friendship with great men, prosperity, salaries, great gifts, an abundance of crops, justice, rank and office, possession of goods, relief and release from bonds, freedom, deposits and trust, money, stewardships. So, like, generally, you get the impression that there's certain things like an abundance, generosity, the giving of gifts. It's like, so if you're to look at the fact that Jupiter and Venus are together in Jupiter's sign, it's like a time of great abundance, and especially with Venus there, there's love and all this kind of thing, and they talk even with talking about childbearing and stuff like this. So I mean, if you're in a situation where it makes sense, maybe it would be a time where a lot of people would be having children. Um, but I mean, it really depends on your own life and what that means for you. And just getting on, like when I talk about it like this, it sounds really positive. Um, However, like I've been procrastinating, I guess, making this video because I've been bogged down with a lot of stuff personally that I wouldn't really like. That sort of gets in the way of me feeling this positivity. For example, like I am recovering from some health problems. And I guess the good news is that the serious stuff is healing up well and everything. But the problem is that I've been getting side effects that are not very nice. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't have to get into all this stuff on my astrology YouTube channel because it's personal, but it's like, I've got like skin problems and psoriasis, and it's like lately, like the bottoms of my feet have been like really raw, and I can't even walk properly, and it just sucks. Okay, I'm just gonna say it just sucks, and but I mean, I maybe that's it's a myopic view to take that view because and in the bigger sense, I live in Canada, and I've got social public health care, and because of this, I'm actually getting really expensive. There would be really expensive medical treatments to pay for myself, but it's all covered, and I'm even getting now. I've got like I've got a hematologist, I got a dermatologist, I got a gastroenterologist, I got all these specialists. I don't have to pay a penny of it, and it's so with that it leaves me in the situation where I'm also on disability and I've got free time, and I've actually like got a lot of money to spend, and if I wanted to, like I'm working on building a modular synthesizer, which is known for being kind of like a bit overly expensive. I personally would have never. I've been waiting to if I was ever going to get into building a modular synth, was waiting until I actually had a good amount of money in the bank to do it. So, and there's actually is like when I look at it in this way, it does actually seem like there is a lot of abundance, and that it's sort of one of these things where I could just be um it's like you could be like a spoiled brat who doesn't appreciate how much you actually have because you're fussing over what you don't have, right? So I think if there's anything about the Jupiter and Venus and Pisces is it's a good thing to sort of like count your lucky stars and be like, am in a pretty good situation and it's pretty nice, and maybe not everybody has this uh has access to this. And but the thing is, this is my own life, and I don't know who's watching this or how it applies to your life. But maybe sometimes it's like that. Maybe sometimes there's some areas where the abundance, the privilege in all this is very obvious and clear, and there might be other areas where you're like, it feels kind of dry right now, right? Because I mean, the one thing I have to say is when it comes to like stuff with Venus and whatever, is like I kind of in the situation where I feel like I'm pretty comfortable in terms of money, and I can just buy music gear and have fun if I want to, and it's sort of like that playful Venus ruling, music and creativity and all that kind of stuff. But it's sort of like, I honestly, since I mean, I don't really have anybody that I'm hanging out with, and to be honest, I'm when I make these videos, I try to be positive and cheery and upbeat, but for the most part, I'm not really like that happy in my life situation. It's like you've got material comforts that make it kind of like nice, but it's not like, it's kind of sucks. And like, I keep having my ex, who I broke up with like a year and a half ago. I keep having to tell off, and like I was gonna probably make this video sooner, but I get kind of like, I mean, even though I'm like solid in the fact that this is a person who I don't want to see anymore, it like brings up a lot of negative emotion to have to like enforce the fact that I don't want to see somebody. And so it kind of it kind of sours this thing about Venus and Jupiter and Pisces being such like a positive time of the year. But if you were to look at your actual charts, like, I mean, I've got Mars and Jupiter and Pisces, and I think she's got like Saturn and Pisces. So it's like, this is one of the things, you can't just go off what I say in these videos, because like you may have like, if you're somebody who has like, depending on your Pisces placements, if you just have like Saturn in Pisces, which stands for a kind of like a lack of awareness or an obstacle, or things getting blocked or frozen or injured or something like that. It's like when a big like a big group of positive planets transits that, it may have some positive effect, but you're getting a bunch of benefics hitting your Saturn placement. You may not get the sort of sense of abundance that you're looking for, because Saturn is kind of blocking it. You know what I mean? It all depends on the specifics of what's going on in your chart. Another thing that I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to keep making these videos anymore, because one of the things that I've been getting is like friends of mine that I'm not friends with anymore still watch my astrology videos and take things that I'm saying here that's not directed at them entirely way too personally, and then send me weird messages sometimes. And I don't know. I mean, it's been a while since this happened specifically, but still, it's not really cool. And I'd like, I mean, if somebody, even if you want to be friends, like, just talk to me. Don't just be a creep and like watch my videos and take things all personally when it's not even, I'm not even talking about you. I don't know. Um, but I don't know. What am I? Maybe I'm getting off track here. The thing is, there's certain things going on with this big stellium in Pisces. Mars is there as well, although it's not tight in there in the conjunction, but because it's there's like, when I was talking about the Venus and Mars conjunctions that we had a couple, like, earlier, there's a certain degree of like social friction, right, where Venus wants, Mars doesn't want. Or even if you look at it as two sides of the same coin as desire, right? If there's something common between this Venus and Jupiter stuff, that it's all about desire, and maybe when you bring in the Neptune Pisces fantasy stuff, it's like, your ideal, what's the ideal to you, what's the fantasy, the more you want something, the more that is also sort of defined by what it is you don't want too, right? And I think that when it comes to Neptune, one of the properties of Neptune could be its transmissibility, in that, like Pisces is like a soup, right? And if you're making a soup, like once you put salt in the soup, you got salt in the soup. So it's like important not to put too much salt in your soup, or maybe not put very much at all, and let people just put them into their own liking, because it's once it's in there you can't get it out. And so I think there's this kind of quality of Neptune that's like in in a higher sense, it can actually be useful for things like what they call spiritual transmission, where if you're like hanging out with people who are bringing a stronger amount of presence and awareness into what they're doing, then that kind of rubs off on you, and it can be a beneficial thing to surround yourself with such people and focus your time around such activities where you're getting a positive influence. However, using the same principle, that there might be influences that you don't want in the mix, because like too much salt in a soup, they might just spoil what's going on. And the fact that Mars is in the same sign as Pisces, it's not like, it's not so much that I think it would totally ruins the positive, optimistic aspect of this transit, but it is there in the same sign, and it is add a bit of that friction that is like, it's not just wish fulfillment and all the nice stuff. There's actually like a degree of friction where there's what I want and what I don't want, and I better make sure what I don't want doesn't get in, right? And although it could also be, quite frankly, because in my own life, I've had to. It's a reoccurring thing where, like I've said before, like back when I had a Venus retrograde, I said, like my ex is always trying to call me regardless of what's going on with the planet Venus. So if it's like, if there's a whole bunch of different transits going on over the course of time, and the behavior of one person doesn't actually change very much during the variations of those transits, it's also a sign that it doesn't really, maybe this person's just stuck on something, and they're not perceptive to what's actually happening in the moment. They're just kind of like stuck, like they're not. You have to actually be present with what's going on and acting accordingly, rather than just repeating the same behavior pattern over and over and over again, right? And if anything, I think astrology is good, because astrology is it sort of challenges us to like look at where we maybe are stuck in the same behaviors, going around over and over and over again, and contrasting that with what's happening in the present moment, and what the astrology of the present moment might be asking of us, which might be different than just repeating the same patterns all the time. And I think, and then if you also tie it in with the fact that we're having eclipse season coming up, I see people are already making their eclipse videos and such. The eclipse, because Venus is ruler of Taurus and Mars is ruler of Scorpio, that the eclipses could be a nice interruption of these patterns, which are otherwise kind of fixed and unconscious. I don't know, just could be something worth looking forward to. But I mean, usually eclipses are more yeah, they're not such good news. But like, if like, I'm just thinking, I have trouble making these videos because my own personal, I'm just kind of thinking like, it would be so nice to like not have to deal with the same shit over and over again all the time. And like, I don't know, I'm like I said, it's it's emotionally difficult because I am kind of lonely, and I don't want to talk to this one girlfriend, and I'm like, maybe one day, like even just like a different friend that would like, I don't want to just hang out with one person, because it's like you give into it, because like you don't have any other options, and you just feel miserable or something like that. Like, I'd prefer to like not be doing something because it's actually what I want to do, not just because I feel like I've been beat up and worn down to the point where I can't say no. It sucks. And I mean, I again about keeping, like, I don't know. I was thinking like maybe I shouldn't go into this stuff in my astrology video, but like I said, I've been putting it off because I haven't been having the greatest time, and it's for a transit that's supposed to be positive. Like, I find Pisces can often like often have this thing about complaining. And so in true Pisces fashion, I'm sorry if I'm complaining throughout this video, and I'm sorry with also this whole thing about like, the Neptune transmissibility and the contamination. Maybe this whole video is just contaminated by the negativity, and it sucks. But I'm like, whatever. I'm like, and again, I'm even considering quitting just doing transit videos altogether, because to continue complaining about it, like I got sick back in last year, right? And then since last year, since I got better and I started making videos again, I haven't had a single person ask for an astrology reading at all, right? So it's sort of like, if I'm doing these videos for the sake of like advertising or trying to like generate people to like it's not working. It's like there's no point. There isn't really a point in doing this if the point is to say like, I'm an astrologer, like I will do readings for you. So it's like, I might as, and I'm not really enjoying this very much as I used to. And if all I do is put out a video saying like, oh look, Venus is in a good position, and then like people like my ex is like, oh, I guess it's a good time to harass my boyfriend again. Like, I don't know. This is where I'm at for the Venus Neptune Jupiter conjunction. I'm not having the best time, but I do. What can I say? Like, I can just materialistically enjoy the money I have, but there isn't a lot of love and friendship and good spirit in my life, and I'm feeling kind of like sick of it, and like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good video to post, but yeah, consider this to be my kind of warning video that I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And yeah, I might just take a break, and yeah, I mean, I could also make astrology videos on things that aren't transits, because there's this thing where it's like there's no end to it. Like, even if I do a good job on an astrology transit video, I just have to keep making more of them and more of them and more of them, and I'm not getting paid, and nobody's fucking like, nobody's asking me for astrology readings. I'm not getting anything out of it at all, and it's like it takes a lot of fucking work to do, and I'm like, just yeah, what's the point? I don't know. You tell me if you want. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even post this, but this is my attempt at doing a astrology video. Thank you very much. Okay, so I started watching my video, where I watched the whole thing I recorded, and I started uploading it, despite the fact that perhaps I've included more negativity in it than I may normally want to include in an astrology video. And then I started to realize there was another point that I was thinking about making in this video, where about the whole thing about the forecast of this abundance that comes with Jupiter, and the whatever, the friendship and love and everything that comes with Venus and stuff like that. And how, I mean, in my personal situation, I can see how there's a certain amount of material abundance, and that maybe some of the treatments that I'm getting may be of the nature of Venus and Jupiter, and the fact that they're beneficial, helpful treatments. Despite the fact that there are some complications and side effects and everything. But if I imagine, though, that if I put out a video like this, that I sort of have the feeling that I must not be the only one who feels like there's something about this Jupiter-Neptune transit that is not quite as materially abundant, or that's not quite what it's about. And I think, for example, if you were to watch my video that I did on Neptune, where I talk about the movie Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky, a lot of what I was trying to do in that video was highlight the sort of quality of the transcendent and the sublime. That I think that, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a contradiction in a way, maybe, because the transcendent is not really something you can quantify very well. It's hard to say what is more or less transcendent, or I've accumulated a lot of transcendence, right? As if it was a material thing that you accumulate. But there is something to do with Neptune and the transcendent, and that I feel like Jupiter often plays the role of the teacher. And so when you put those together, I already kind of mentioned this thing about the transmission from spiritual teachers and having the right kind of exposure, the right kind of associations in your life versus trying to keep out the wrong kind of associations that you don't want. Um, However, there's something about the transcendent where what I'm talking about, all this sort of dissatisfaction that, it's a Venus, Jupiter, Neptune conjunction, and yet where's the abundance of stuff that I may have liked that's not here? There's a certain sort of dissatisfaction that comes with that, which could be indicative of the dissatisfaction that's inherited in all, material phenomenal things. And the Buddhists call this dukkha. It's basically that life is suffering, that there's something inherent, even when times are good, there's something inherently dissatisfying about life. And that Neptune, I think, is an opportunity to open up a kind of a window into something beyond the basic wish fulfillment, pleasure gratification, into something that's bigger than that, that's higher than that makes those kinds of desires look kind of small and petty in contrast. And I think a good example of this that always comes to mind for me is the Sufi poet Hafiz. If you read his biography, his story, Hafiz was a poet who he was like a lower class kind of guy, and apparently he wasn't all that good looking either. So, but he fell in love with a beautiful woman who outclassed him, who he didn't have much of a chance with, but he heard that there was a place where you could do a vigil. And if you held a candlelight vigil where you stayed up for 40 days and 40 nights and you didn't eat anything and you kept in mind your true heart's desire, then you would be rewarded at the end of this vigil by being given the thing that you really wanted. And the story goes that at the end of this vigil, what happened was that Hafiz was given a vision of the archangel Gabriel as a kind of divine messenger. And this experience was, I mean, whether or not that was literally like the angel showed up and talked to him, or if this was just a metaphor for some other kind of spiritual experience, maybe it's not just like an angel appearing with white wings and stuff, right? But that's what they see in the story, is that the angel appears, and then he was so transfixed with the beauty of this angel that he kind of forgot about the woman he was infatuated with and spent the rest of his life in spiritual devotion. And so I think there's this, in the sense that perhaps the sense of dissatisfaction, which unfortunately I have not done a good job of keeping out of this video. This video is somewhat contaminated by my own kind of frustrations and dissatisfactions in life, but in a spiritual sense, then those kinds of frustrations and dissatisfactions can actually be helpful because they help to fuel the search for something beyond, something that's transcendent. And that this opportunity of Jupiter, Venus, and Neptune, it's sort of like a golden opportunity for accessing the transcendent, and that maybe the generosity may actually be a generous helping of opportunities to get the teachings, to get the resources, to get whatever you need to do that. And that it may not really actually have that much to do with getting the material, like the happy marriage, the happy home, the happy family, the happy community, the happy group, whatever it is. Like maybe all that stuff is actually just kind of dissatisfying and leaves you like, this is it? Like, really? This sucks, right? Like maybe that's not, with Neptune in the mix, maybe that what they call divine discontent is not there by mistake. It's not a sign that, it's not a sign that this has gone wrong any more than anything else in material manifestation has gone wrong. There's actually a popular kind of religious idea with stuff like Gnosticism and stuff that the material manifest world is here by some kind of a weird accident. Like things like that, and that's why it's kind of like messed up, and that it seems dissatisfying, and that life is suffering, and that we need to like meditate and sort ourselves out a bit, and that maybe even if I make a video like this and I include my own gripes and my own dissatisfactions and all this kind of stuff, maybe it's a good thing that I include that, and maybe it's a good because maybe it's a good thing that you don't try to hide, they don't try to hide that, but actually see that the presence of this stuff is there as a kind of a yeast which kind of drives the fermentation process in this bubbling Neptune Pisces brewing stew, and the actual what comes out of that, it needs that kind of dissatisfaction to drive it, to work it, to make it go, right? Um, and so it's like it's nothing of this is actually an accident, even if it's not as positive as the two greater benefic, or the two benefics getting together in Pisces we'd want, but maybe for the Neptune influence is sort of driving it to this transcendental direction, and you need dissatisfaction, you need coming up short, you need the sense of having like, wow, I have so much stuff, but it's just stuff, it's just material stuff. Like, what the hell, isn't there something more than this? Like, what, I can buy stuff, but what can I not buy with money? What goes beyond that? What goes beyond simple pleasures, right? Like, I want something more. And that you need this sort of dissatisfaction to push you, because if you didn't have that, you'd just be, if you were happy with McDonald's, why would you ever go and eat somewhere else? You know what I mean? If you're happy living out of a garbage can, why would you try to find a better home? You know what I mean? Like, you need that dissatisfaction to sort of like stoke your growth in this sense. It's a good thing, actually. So this helps to, and then also by seeing it as such, it helps to redeem it. If you see what I'm saying. So what could have originally been a problematic video, I've found the redemption for. But I don't know, whatever. But you get the idea, right? Hopefully you made it to this point and you didn't just get stopped on the negative part. This is what I have to say for Jupiter, and maybe I won't quit. I don't, but I mean, Pisces kind of has this sort of. I feel like Mars too. Mars and Pisces sort of has this sort of like, you can't. Well, I don't know. You can't fire me. I quit. I don't know if that's my attitude. I'm like, no one's hiring me to do this anyways. But you know what I mean. Like, what can I say? Okay. So here's my. That's to finish off my video. There you go. Okay. Thank you very much.